Most Americans don't know why all Mormons seem to live in Utah and why these cities often look different than the rest of the United States. Well, it turns out this Mormon church has had a long history of moving from city to city, as their attempts to convert new followers often resulted in violence. The Mormon church was actually founded in upstate New York by a man named Joseph Smith, who says he received a revelation from God that all the current Christian churches weren't worshiping the true God. And Joseph was instructed to create the Book of Mormon, translated from some gold tablets he found buried in his yard. Some of Joseph's family and friends were fascinated by this new message, to where the church now had about 45 new members. Joseph's hometown was very small, and the town's council heard about this new religious community forming and soon told Joseph he had to either disband the church or move elsewhere. Joseph and his fellow Mormons packed their bags and were told by God to head to Ohio, where they settled in Kirtland. Here Joseph was waiting for a message from God as to where the new Mormon Holy Land would be, called Zion. More and more people were fascinated by this new religious message, and Kirtland grew rapidly in size to a couple thousand people, mostly consisting of Mormons. One night, Joseph Smith got violently dragged out of his home by a mob and got covered in tar and feathers, accused of bank fraud, forcing Joseph Smith to get out of Ohio. And well, Joseph decided it was time to leave. Luckily, one of Joseph Smith's followers had been out scouting where the new utopian Zion should be, and he found just a spot, Jackson County, Missouri. Joseph was given a sign from God that Jackson County, Missouri was right next to the original Garden of Eden, which is where Adam and Eve once were. Jackson County, Missouri was supposedly the original Holy Land, but the Missouri residents who had been living here for some time didn't agree and had a strong pushback against the Mormons moving here. Locals in Missouri became violent with the Mormons, but Joseph Smith urged his followers not to fight back, as he would soon lead the church to Illinois, where a young lawmaker known as Abraham Lincoln would help out. This story only gets crazier as Joseph eventually finds himself in an Illinois prison. But this wasn't the end of the story. It was only the beginning of something darker. The Mormons kept moving, wandering from state to state like outcasts, chased by mobs, rejected by towns, and whispered about in fear. Wherever they went, strange rumors followed, whispers of secret rituals, of hidden treasures, of Joseph holding power not just from his words, but from forces people claimed were not of this world. To his followers, he was a prophet chosen by God, but to his enemies, he was a dangerous man, a fraud who threatened the established order. Every new settlement felt like it might finally be the promised land, but every time, chaos would rise again. It was as if some invisible curse was pushing them further west, step by step, toward a destiny written long before they ever began their journey. And Joseph himself, growing more ambitious, more radical, began making choices that would change everything. This is where the story takes a chilling turn, because in Illinois, what seemed like peace at first quickly spiraled into the most dangerous chapter of his life. From here, the movement of the Mormons continued, and 9 years after the church was originally founded, in 1839, Joseph Smith bought 15 acres of land in Nauvoo, Illinois, where it seemed like the purchase of this land was finally going to give the Mormons some peace and quiet to settle and grow their church. But Joseph Smith may have started feeling a little too comfortable, as he started believing in plural marriage, where he had up to 40 different wives, and one of them was even as young as 14 when Joseph was 37. Joseph also got elected mayor of Nauvoo and even started running for president of the United States. Many outsiders started believing Joseph was doing this all because he was just power-hungry. And in June of 1844, the Nauvoo Expositor wrote an article exposing Joseph for having the 40 different wives. Joseph snapped back, ordering the destruction of their printing license, which many saw as an even more power-hungry attack, as Joseph was now going after people's First Amendment rights. Joseph then got charged with treason and thrown in jail. Joseph was in jail for about 4 months until an angry mob of 200 men stormed the jail, coming after Joseph. Joseph jumped out the window trying to escape, but unfortunately just fell to his death. Illinois then revoked the Mormons' charter to settle in Nauvoo, and they are once again on the move, this time heading west. A man who was close to Joseph Smith named Brigham Young was now leading the group, and they were facing a brutal winter in the upper Midwest, where many Mormons were unfortunately passing away. Brigham Young and his fellow Mormons finally made it to a beautiful region at the base of the Rockies, which hadn't been settled yet or even claimed by a U.S. state, to where the Mormons finally believed they found the right spot, which later became known as Salt Lake City, Utah.